The views expressed on the Warren and Bradley Show are not necessarily those held by the hosts, Warren and Bradley, nor those of the proprietors of the website, warrenandbradley.com.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Let's make some magic.
It is magic time. Hello and welcome once again to the Warren and Bradley Show. I am one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
I'm the other host, Warren Van.
Episode 42 of the Warren and Bradley Show, recording on a Sunday afternoon. Had a eventful weekend, lots of things to talk about. But first off, what's new with you, Warren?
Nothing. I was just thinking about that before we went on the air here, that
Yes.
I really have nothing to contribute. I did do my fantasy football draft last week, so it's the first Sunday where really the consequences of my picks are coming through to me.
No, right.
It's been very exciting.
So this is the first weekend that games are taking
Yes,
place?
that's true.
Okay.
So I've been watching
sporting matches?
the results happen, various players having good games and bad games.
Yeah.
It's been quite an afternoon.
So how are you
far.
doing?
So far I'm doing all right. Everyone's kind of came through for me so far.
Who's your quarterback?
Aaron Rodgers.
Ooh.
Although he's having a tough game. As we're recording, he's actually having a tough game, and I'm a little concerned about his performance right now.
He's the top-rated quarterback right now.
Oh, he is, yeah. That's my boy right there.
Didn't you have him last year, too?
I did have him last year. He came through for me last year, so I'm going with him again.
You guys can't double up on players, right? So if you have Aaron Rodgers that nobody
No,
else
everyone
gets
in the league there's just one of that player in that league.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you end up with Aaron Rodgers?
I had the third pick in some sort of lottery system we have in my league. And so I ended up with the third pick, and so I ended up taking Aaron Rodgers. Some other players were taken earlier, which were the running backs, which are usually considered the most valuable players in fantasy football. So that's why Aaron Rodgers slid to me at number 3.
So what's the whole point of this? Do you get anything if
Yes,
you win?
if I win, I will get money.
How much?
I don't know.
You all put in a certain...
I think we all put in $20.
And how many people are involved?
12.
Is it winner takes all? Or
I think there's some sort of payout system where the second place maybe gets something and the third place maybe gets a little bit. Like their insure feedback or something for third place. I can't remember. I've never actually won.
Is there lots of like shaming and humiliation and people being dicks to each other? Or
No, it's a pretty courteous league.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So you're involved in your fairytale football league.
That's what I'm doing, yeah.
I went out last night, had a good time.
Oh, nice.
Went out with the older brother. There was a rock show going on downtown.
Oh, you and your older brother love that rock and roll.
Yeah, it was one of those weird shows where it was a band that used to play back in the day around town, and they have a still very devoted following amongst all the townies here. And so it was one of those kind of reunions where you see all these people who you don't see very often, who used to go out to the bars, and they're all slightly older and fatter.
And heavier, and they've been smoking still, so their skin doesn't look that good.
But it was a very eventful night. Let me see if I can remember all the salient things that happened. I had some flirtation going on. That was nice.
Good.
Had some girls digging my action. That was cool. Saw the show, hung out with my brother, helped a girl vomit.
How so? What did you do with this girl?
Well,
you hold her hair?
We'll get to this. And then also, I think I prevented a rape. Or 2, actually.
Oh, jeez.
No. This is good. I was a very good Samaritan. But we'll go through the whole thing. At the show, it was crazily packed and busy, and everyone was drunken and crazy, beer flying everywhere and stuff. And I was standing kind of near the DJ booth, and at one point, there was this girl who couldn't be older than 21. Like, she looks like she had just turned 21 and was just able to go out into the bars, and she was just drunk and flopping around everywhere, and she would jump into the moshing area every once in a while and then kind of get flung back out because she was this tiny little thing. And at one point, I was just standing watching the show, and this dude tapped me on the shoulder and was like, "That chick's into you." And I was like, "What?" And I look over and I see the girl kind of blearily like staring at me. And
Did you notice any of this before the other guy came up to you and told you this?
I had seen her, but she was just like...
You haven't noticed her like giving you like eyes or anything?
But she was just flopping around everywhere, and I just wasn't really paying any attention. And I look over and I could see her sort of squintily leering at me. It's like, okay, is that she's into me? And she saw me looking at her, and she came up to me and sort of collapsed onto my chest.
Oh, that's nice.
And was sort of hugging me right off the bat. I'm like, okay, this girl is out of it. And she did that thing, which I love, where if you're in a really loud bar and nobody can hear anything anyone's saying, but sometimes a girl will come up to you and try to talk to you and she'll actually plug your ear for you. Like she plugs the other ear and then talks into that one. She did that. It's kind of an intimate, like, cool thing. But then she was just totally wasted. She was trying to dance with me. It's like, okay, this isn't working here.
Yeah.
And then I could see the look on her face and could tell that vomit was imminent. It was going to come soon.
Oh, you got to get her a little bit farther away from you then.
Well, and this was the thing. I saw the look flash across her face. I could see her sort of, and I knew she was going to vomit. At that point, she was facing towards me.
Yeah.
So I had several options. I could either just jump out of the way and run for it, or I could try to push her around so she was facing the crowd, or what I actually did, which was amazing, and I can't believe the reflexes and the larceny with which I was able to do this.
Yeah.
I grabbed her around the shoulders, picked her up completely, bodily picked her up, managed to rotate her entirely so she was facing this little alcove near the DJ booth, grabbed her hair, held it back, leaned her over, and she just went, huh, and vomited into this alcove. I stood her back up and turned her around again. Nobody even noticed that she vomited.
Really?
I don't even know if she noticed that she vomited.
Huh.
It was amazing. It was one of the best things. I've often thought that I have cat-like reflexes when the time calls for it. Like there was one time when my little brother was on this deck and he was like a toddler toddling around, and all of a sudden I saw him go, huh, and I grabbed him by the back of the shirt and held him. So it was like this 10-foot drop that he was going to fall down to break his little skull. So it was similar to that.
Oh wow,
it was pretty cool. But that was the end of that with that girl.
That wasn't the rape you prevented, was it?
No. I prevented myself from raping this girl. No, that was, I was walking home. I had a good night. Wasn't really drunk, just a little buzz going. Walking home, and near my house, near the mini market here, I could see these two girls kind of collapsed on the ground.
Oh, right in the heart of Bumtown.
Yeah, and they didn't look like they belonged there. They were kind of party girl looking, little dresses and things. And they were just sort of on the ground, and there were these two skeevy-looking, twitchy guys that were standing over them.
Locals, yeah.
Yeah, and one of them... Well, no, not local to here, like college douchebaggy guys.
Oh, those kind of guys.
Yeah, but kind of sleazy, little weaselly guys.
Yeah.
They couldn't see me walking towards them, and I could hear one of them was like, come on, get him up. And one of the girls was like, I want to go home. Are we going home? And the guy's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, I see what's going on here. And it just immediately struck me, this is not good. Like, they're going to take these girls somewhere and try to do something horrible to them. And so finally one of the guys notices me walking up. Yeah. And so it was like he was trying to head me off or something. So he came up to me and was like, hey, what's going on? You have a good night? Yeah. I mean, what's happening? I'm like, yeah. Your friend's doing all right over there? Oh, yeah. We're going to take him home, take care of him. Like, all right, take care of them, right? And so the other guy was like, come on, dude, come on. And so I did the thing that I've done before where I went up to the girls and asked them how they were doing, and they were just, do you know these people? And it's funny because when I'm doing this, these guys know that the jig is up, sort of. Yeah. They're too drunk and too stupid to really figure out how to maneuver the situation.
Well, that's the thing. At that point, there's no way you can, like, turn... If you're planning on, like, taking these drunk girls home and, like, molesting them, there's no way you can turn the tide at that point. If someone's, like, stepping in and intervening.
Right, and it's not like they're going to fight to have that honor. You know, like, hey, we're planning on raping these girls. Yeah. And, it's... So what can they do, really? So they're just sort of standing around. It's like, okay, I'm going to call you guys a cab. So I called them a cab. The guys finally gave up and left. Yeah. And cab came, put them in the cab, asked them if they knew where they lived and everything, and they were, I think, probably
got in the
conscious
general
enough.
area.
So yeah,
as long as they got out of this area, they were probably
and away from
safer.
the date rapers.
Yes. That's probably they couldn't have gone anywhere worse. Probably.
So I thought that was good. I thought I did my good deed. For
you're a hero
for the decade.
I like how you basically convicted these guys of rape, which was
they were going to take advantage of these women. I could tell. They look like those kinds of guys, and the girls were so drunk they didn't know these people really. I don't think. Yeah. And they weren't going to their homes. I could also tell.
You've got some spidey senses because you're sensing this vomiting coming on early. You're sensing like potential rape, disaster all across the city. You're like getting this tingling in the back of your spine. And you're heading there and averting disaster.
I was highly attuned last night. Actually, I was noticing my sense of smell seemed strangely heightened.
I've had days like that.
Yeah,
that's weird. And then you walk around, you can really just smell everything. You're
well,
like,
I could smell a friend of ours, Anastasia. I was standing outside the bar, and she doesn't have a bad odor or anything.
Wait, no. You could smell her coming before you saw her?
Yes, I was like, I could smell. I was like, oh, I smell Anastasia. And I turned around, and she's maybe 10 feet away at the entrance to the bar. I was like, oh, that's weird. And I could smell a lot of unwashed bodies and stuff. What was my superpower before? It was... it was like Aquaman, where I could summon homeless people to me and use them as human shields. Yeah.
And then, exactly. Yeah, use them for human shields. And I
also have my super preventative rape sense.
So you think you smelled Anastasia's like her soap or something, or you think you actually smelled her body odor?
A person's smell. No, she didn't. It wasn't like a body odor. It's a person's smell is a combination of whatever products they use and then their just own strange scent.
You think that came on the wind to your nose and you actually sensed her before she was like right next to you?
This happened to me before, where I used to wear a cologne. I don't wear cologne anymore, but there was a time when somebody had given it to me for my birthday, and it lasts like 4 years, for quite a while I was wearing this cologne. And another friend of ours, I could see her walking outside the bagelry while I was in the bagelry.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I see her stop, scent the air like a dog.
Yeah.
And she looks around, and then she looks and sees me inside the bagelry and rushes in. It's like, I could smell you from outside. I knew you were in there. I'm like, really? So she had been like following some scent trail.
Well, yeah, that's cologne. I guess that makes sense. Yeah,
but I hadn't been out there recently. The door was closed. And it's not like I'm an Armenian guy. I don't throw buckets of cologne on me.
Okay.
No.
All right.
And it was an eau de toilette, so it wasn't like a strong cologne. It was a very mild scent.
Eau de toilette is much less pungent than...
It's toilet water. It doesn't mean you take water out of the toilet. Basically, it's a lighter version of a cologne. It's not as strong as a perfume.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's a little watered down.
Little tip for all you guys out there.
Yeah, I've never actually worn cologne before. I considered a few years ago I was going to maybe get some and start wearing cologne around and see what happened, but I sort of like forgot to do that.
I never notice any offensive odors coming from you, so I think you're fine.
I keep pretty clean,
Yeah.
But I also don't have any like strong, like masculine, musky odors that might attract the ladies too. You know what I mean? I guess they're supposed to do that.
I don't know if that attracts the ladies or not.
Basically,
we live in a society now where any smell of body is so repulsive to people. It's amazing how sensitive we have become as a society, because you meet people from other parts of the world, even from Europe, and you can smell pungent body odors coming from people, and to us that's the most disgusting thing in the world.
We don't seem to allow that, but I much prefer that to like that strong like perfume smell that sometimes people have.
Well, it used to happen when I worked in Bloomingdale's. There were all the Armenian dudes would come into the perfume sections. And they would smell horribly of body odor, and then they would just dump gallons of Armani something all over themselves.
Yeah.
So you had this horrible masked body odor scent that was
that's worse. That's the thing. Like if you have a couch and your couch is very dirty,
and you put Febreze all over it,
rather than actually clean the couch.
It doesn't work.
And then it just has this horrible chemical smell on top of a dirty smell,
right?
Which is much worse than just a normal dirty smell.
Yeah.
Just give me the dirt, or get rid of the dirt and just be clean. Just covering things up. It's the same thing. And Watergate, everything. Cover-ups never work. Always get to the root of the problem and,
get some bleach on that shit.
Yeah. Take care of it.
All right, then. All right, so just a little bit of housekeeping to deal with right now. I think we mentioned in a previous episode, but if you're already listening to the show, you obviously know where to get the show, but in case you somehow accidentally are listening to this show and you don't know how it happened, you can find us on iTunes. Just search for The Warren and Bradley Show, and if you go to iTunes and you find the show, subscribe to the show and rate the show. We like that. We
like it when people subscribe?
We like it when they subscribe, because they'll always just automatically download the show. Once they're subscribed and they click into iTunes, it'll download the show automatically. And even if they don't listen to it, I'll still think that they did, and that'll make me happy.
Well, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
It's making you think the show's very popular. Okay, that's what I wanted to be clear about. That it's like, I don't really care if you subscribe to the show, but it will like boost the numbers, even if you don't listen to the show, and then Brad will look at the like graphs and the pie charts and stuff and be like really
kill
pleased.
Myself for
exactly.
And while you're on there, give us a little rating, write a little review. Only good ones.
5 stars.
You can also find us on Stitcher Radio, the BlackBerry Podcast app, the
Zune store
podcast directory, and
the BlackBerry place.
The BlackBerry Podcast. I think I mentioned that. So anyway, get out there, spread the word, tell your friends, spread the disease.
Oh my.
Yeah. It's infectious.
Yeah. All right.
Kind of like Ebola.
Which should be a little bit more so, huh?
So this might end up being a new feature eventually. I just haven't come up with a pithy name for it yet. But throughout my daily life, there are things that irritate me occasionally.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah. I don't live my life like an angry person. I know some people who are just constantly miserable all the time, and they have to make sure everyone knows how miserable they are.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm like that.
You do have a podcast and complain on it.
Yeah, and I'll riff on things every once in a while, but I don't spend all day just bitching about things to people, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're pretty moderate as far as people go, yeah.
That's good. But something happened recently that really pissed me off.
Okay.
Regular listeners to the show will no doubt recall the Carmageddons Part 1 and 2, all the bullshit that was going on with my car.
Yeah.
And how eventually I received a horrible prognosis from a mechanic, which basically convinced me that my car was worthless and I needed a new one.
You got the diagnostic test. They said the cost of fixing this car goes beyond the cost of the car.
Right, and they didn't even know if what they were going to do to it would even fix the vehicle. I think it was an estimate of $1,200, and that might not fix the problem.
So it's futile to fix the
car. So I
car.
was like, fuck this.
Yeah.
So I sold it for a fraction of what I paid for it. Had some guy haul it away, and then I went up to my eyeballs in debt getting a truck to replace the car. Whatever, I was happy with the truck, but I was pissed off about all the pain and anguish that the car had caused me. Mm-hmm. Well, recently, the person I sold the vehicle to, the international drug traffickers,
yes,
gave me a text message and said that their truck had been broken into and that the title for the vehicle that I sold them had been stolen.
Oh, that's right.
Truck.
I forgot about this. Yeah, that's
yes.
right.
And so there was this whole rigmarole of all these text messages back and forth, like, can you meet me at the DMV? Can you do this? And I was like, oh, God.
Yeah.
And I even called the DMV and was like, hoping that there was nothing I could do because I had already done a report of sale and all the shit. But like, no, you have to come and sign an affidavit in lieu of title, blah, blah, blah. And so the guy who I sold the car to finally wrote again and was like, okay, I fixed the car and I've given it to my sister and she needs to register it. So is there any way we can meet up? So I arranged to meet with him at a licensing place this Saturday. He couldn't come, and so he was going to send his partner, who I guess fixes the cars in their weird chop shop, whatever strange organization they've got going on.
Yeah, he's like Vin Diesel and the other guys.
Exactly.
Paul Walker or whatever.
Yes. And so I wait for the guy. He shows up. He's this kind of lanky, mopey guy with grease all over his hands. I'm like, all right, this is the mechanic, obviously. We go in, do the rigmarole. He pays like $12, and they transfer the title, whatever. And so I'm asking him, and this was my first mistake, was even asking him this question. But I asked, oh, so you guys fixed the car already? So you already rewired everything? Because basically the mechanic had told me that all the wiring in the engine was shot. It needed a whole new wiring harness, blah, 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 blah. So you did all that already? That was quick. No. Oh, you didn't rewire it? It didn't need to be rewired. I just put it like a $12 relay in it, and it's fine. $12 relay.
Oh. Wasn't the diagnostic supposed to pick that up?
Okay. Here's the thing. I don't know for sure that the mechanic was trying to fuck me, but if they weren't trying to fuck me, they're the most inept pieces of shit to ever work on a car. Because I asked the guy, what did you do? He said, I hooked up a diagnostic machine. I saw where there was a broken connection. There was one solder joint that was fucked up, and that was causing the relay to go out. It had caused the relay to get fucked up. He fixed the solder joint, put a new relay in. It took him 15 minutes and $12.
Well, this is what I'm thinking would probably happen. Keith Cox Automotive, Autobahn, or whatever it's called, they probably just put the machine in, plugged it in, saw that like the electrical thing wasn't working, didn't actually look at the car, and just were like,
well, okay,
whatever.
Well, here's the thing. They wrote up an estimate for me saying that they had checked all the wiring in the engine and all the connections were burnt, and that all the wiring had to be replaced. Suggesting,
really?
Yes, suggesting that they had looked through the engine with a fine-tooth comb, looked at all the wiring harness, and like, oh, no, it's all fucked up. It's all
that's
completely
not true.
ruined.
That wasn't true then, right?
No, none of it was. None of it was fucked.
Oh, my.
So they gave me an estimate for well over $1,000, like $1,500, that might not even fix the problem. So what I'm thinking is they were thinking, here's an idiot. We'll make him pay us all this money. Then we'll say, oh, no, it's still not fixed. Pay us some more money. Then we'll just do the relay and be like, okay, we finally fixed your fucking car for you. There you go, fucker. Get out of here. Or they are just ridiculously stupid and lazy. Either way, they have cost me thousands of dollars. They have cost me selling a perfectly good vehicle for a tiny fraction of its value.
Yeah.
All the time and just my precious time spent dealing with this bullshit, trying to sell the car, trying to find a new vehicle, taking a loan to get the new car, paying the interest on the loan, all this shit is their fault. And I'm going to make it my mission in life to fuck them repeatedly in the ass. I'm going to go online, every site that has reviews for their business. I'm going to write horrible reviews. I'm going to picket their business out front whenever I have time, or I'll pay homeless people to do it. I'm going to go on Facebook. I'm going to go on social media. I'm going to do everything in my power to destroy them.
Oh, good luck with that, then.
Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
Yes, it is Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show. Let's get right into it. Our first story: Prince Harry has been deployed to Afghanistan for 4 months.
You think this is linked in any way to his outrageous behavior in Las Vegas?
From the body of the story, apparently he had been pushing for deployment as early as possible, and I think the royal family wanted him out of there too. Just go to Afghanistan, get shot down by the Taliban, and then we won't have to worry about you anymore.
Yeah, it's true that people can have to talk less trash about you if you're actually like fighting in Afghanistan or flying a helicopter around Afghanistan.
Yeah, and I guess there's kind of a tradition of the non-heir to the throne, maybe the third in line. Yeah. They all have to do some military service. That's just kind of the way it is in England, but they're the ones who actually might see combat and might actually do something dangerous. They're never going to put the heir in that kind of situation. So he's going to be flying an Apache helicopter. He's going to be in command of a squadron of helicopters, apparently. His duties will be focusing on delivering support to the coalition troops on the ground, according to Captain Jock Gordon. That's the best captain's name in the world. I'm Captain Jock Gordon, commander of the Joint Aviation Group. No word on whether or not he'll be allowed to be naked in the cockpit.
I would assume not. Although he is royalty, so maybe they'll make an exception.
Using the joystick in there. So maybe that'll keep Harry out of trouble for a little while. Another Harry update. Prince Harry's Vegas party girl, who we mentioned last week, Carrie Reichert, has been arrested.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. Apparently
by MI6 or anything?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering about that, if there was some sort of conspiracy, since she had come out with, I think it was the People newspaper in the UK.
Oh, yeah, she was the one who was made out with him for 20 to 25 minutes, right?
Right, and there's no word on if she got paid for that story or not. I'm assuming she probably did, because it's kind of a trashy tabloid. But anyway, we talked about our That's How Women Are last week, of women writing checks. Well, apparently Carrie Reichert has been writing some bad checks.
Really?
For a total of $21,672.
Huh.
Yeah. So she was picked up in San Diego when she was trying to board a plane to Mexico.
This is the kind of behavior you kind of expect of a party girl in Las Vegas, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't shocking to anyone. I don't think it destroys her credibility that much.
Well, I don't think she had much credibility to begin with. I guess she was at the party. Who knows if she actually made out with him. I liked one of the quotes she mentioned when she was telling the story of the drunken fumble that she had with Harry, was that he was so drunk the alcohol affected him, meaning that he was too drunk to have sex with her, I think is what she was trying to veil, like her veiled hint.
Oh, really? I didn't. Yeah.
Well, she was saying, we kissed, he was naked at the time and pretty open. It was a drunken fumble. It wasn't romantic, just fun. He was a gentleman, but he was so wasted the alcohol affected him. That, to me...
Oh, you think that's... The subtext of that is the fact that they...
A little whiskey dick going on.
I've never heard that term.
Really?
No, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't understand what you're saying, yeah.
Whiskey dick. Okay, so last week we had the story on Nazanin Boniadi.
Oh, yeah.
The actress who was auditioned to be Tom Cruise's girlfriend through the Church of Scientology. More things are coming out about this, that Penelope Cruz and Tom Cruise split because she rejected Scientology.
Oh.
In between his second and third marriages, Tom Cruise dated Penelope Cruz. And although the Spanish actress, 38, is now happily married to Javier Bardem, the explosive new cover story of Vanity Fair alleges that Cruz and Cruz parted ways over Scientology. It was the same article that we mentioned last week that was in the October issue of Vanity Fair. She had apparently taken a few courses and did a few auditing sessions, but the Scientology leader and Cruz friend David Miscavige branded her as a dilettante when he found out that she wouldn't give up her deep devotion to Zen Buddhism.
Good for her.
It's just so weird to me. This whole thing. I mean, of course, the church has come out and made a statement saying that the allegations and the whole premise of the Vanity Fair article are completely false. But obviously, what are they going to say? Like, oh, you got us. But it's just so fucking weird. I don't know how anyone can take somebody seriously who is just completely a slave to such a weird cult religion. Yeah, it's just strange to me.
Yeah, but I'm happy that Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz are together now.
Yeah.
Seems like a nice couple.
Yeah, they seem fine.
Yeah, right?
Can you just imagine, I mean, first of all, you have to know that Tom Cruise is gay. And so when you're approached by Tom Cruise, like, let's date, and you have to accept several things right off the bat, that your husband is probably a homosexual and you have to become part of a cult. Yeah. It's a very tall order.
Oh, it seems like a minor thing for people to do, though. I mean, considering so many people want to be stars, and this gives you a leg up in your career. I mean, people have done much weirder and more awful things than that to be big stars.
This is just a quick little story here. Ireland Baldwin explains her dad Alex's infamous voicemail rant. This happened years ago. I think the...
Called her a little pig, right?
It's like 4 years ago, yeah. The famous voicemail message in which he called her a little pig and that he was going to get on a plane and straighten her out. Yeah. Because she wasn't returning his phone calls. I don't know why this has come out now or why anyone's even talking to her. She's 16 now. We're looking at a picture of her. She's a frightening amalgam of Kim Basinger and Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, she's definitely their child.
Yeah, but she said that at the time she didn't think anything of it, and he just rants and raves every once in a while, and she called him right back, and it was fine.
Well, that's what Alec Baldwin is, that person, right?
He is.
If Alec Baldwin wasn't leaving weird messages like that, you'd think something was wrong.
He seems mildly crazy, but also kind of cool at the same time. Like, you might want to hang around with him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, of all the celebrities, I think who might get real with you, it might be Alec Baldwin.
Jude Law, hacking scandal turned my life into a public soap opera.
What hacking scandal? Was he hacking into computers?
No. You remember there was this huge scandal in the British tabloids where
that thing.
Rupert Murdoch's News of the World and I guess other tabloid newspapers were actually hacking celebrity cell phones and computers and getting personal voicemail messages and all these things.
Yes, that
and I guess
controversy.
Jude Law at the time, well, he's now won $208,000 in damages from Rupert Murdoch. But he was going crazy because all these stories would start coming out about him in the press, and he had no idea how anyone knew, and he started suspecting his close friends and family. Oh, yeah. Because these were the people who would know these things. And so I guess he got very paranoid and started freaking out. But we often complain about celebrity culture and the obsession that people have about it, and we're feeding into that obviously ourselves.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
But just the idea of gossip constantly being consumed by people, and when you get to the point of hacking into people's private phone messages, just to
well, I remember the hacking situation that most outraged the public was that they hacked into that teenage murder victims.
Yeah,
and then that made the police think that she was still alive even though she was dead, which gave the family hope, and that was that's not acceptable.
We all need to. I think Jude Law had a good quote here at the end. He said that even though he fully supports the freedom of press, he said that he hopes the public's fascination with gossip will come to an end. I want it to get better. I recognize the importance of the freedom of the press. It is something we should uphold and something we should support, and it's an important part of a democratic society. But at the same time, surely, let's come to an end with this obsession with gossip. It seems to me that it's time that we all lifted our heads out of the gutter.
Here. I think a lot of the people that are in these celebrity magazines and a lot of the people that are in the tabloids are people that want to be in the tabloids.
Yes.
So I don't think that it's always just a one-way street with that stuff.
Speaking of lifting our heads out of the gutter,
let's lift our heads.
Chris Brown's girlfriend, Karrueche Tran. Well,
Karrueche Tran.
I knew Tran. Vietnamese Tran.
Karrueche Tran.
Karrueche Tran is pissed over the Rihanna VMA kiss. Those of you who don't know, at the Video Music Awards, she won Video of the Year, and Chris Brown gave her a big smack right on the lips.
See, that's an example of people that are just playing into the media fascination.
The listeners,
look at the emotional reaction that got out of you the other day.
Well, the listeners already know how I feel about Chris Brown. And
but I mean, they're listening.
The offer still stands for the ass kicking. But if he wants to come over.
They're listening that sort of emotional reaction is exactly what they want to have happen.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
But apparently they're still fucking, and I don't know. And he's...
What? How do you know that?
Well, because they say that they've been having they had their private rendezvous on his yacht once when he was filming a video.
I would think Tron would be much more upset about that.
Well, she's dating somebody who beat the shit out of one of his girlfriends, so I don't know what she's going to expect from this guy anyway. She's wearing a sheer top with just a bra underneath, kind of like that. Anyway, I think one of our listeners sent this in as well. Amanda Bynes has had her license stripped from her, and we
Fans
say it's
of the
about goddamn
Warren
time.
and Bradley show, cry out with joy, because we've been waiting for this to happen before somebody died.
We've had, I don't know how many stories of Amanda Bynes smacking into people with her car.
Yeah.
And we could never understand why she was still allowed to drive. And now finally, after her last hit-and-run accident, her license has been stripped away. And she's still facing charges and could face up to a year in jail, which obviously would never happen.
Well, the interesting thing about this, no, is that she will probably continue to drive, continue to smack into people, and eventually she'll end up in jail.
Well, she's already been cited for driving under a suspended license to begin with. So, yeah, I don't know if this is going to stop her. But I guess the woman who was involved in the car crash, she filed a complaint, and Bynes has been charged with hit and run, and also another count relating to a crash back in April when she had her license suspended. So
she was driving suspended.
Driving with a suspended license. The woman, only known as Kisa, says that someone could have died if Bynes kept driving. A normal person would not get away with hit and runs, and she shouldn't either. I'm glad she's off the road. She absolutely needs to pay for her actions, and taking away her license is a good first step. I feel she needs to get some sort of help, and maybe this will be the catalyst.
Again, I would be shocked if this is the last time we heard about her driving and crashing into somebody.
Do some odds on that, like over-under?
Over-under in the amount of deaths that she causes?
I don't know about a death.
I think within the next year, there will be another Amanda Bynes traffic-related incident. She'll be driving without a
next
license.
Year? Okay, I'm going to say within the next 6 months.
Oh, yeah, that could be too.
All right.
That's one, yeah,
there you go.
definitely.
This has been Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show. They wander the streets, scavenging for loose change and discarded cigarette butts.
Spare $1.
And give me a motherfucking cigarette.
I ran out of gas ways back. Got any meth?
You smoke weed, don't you?
Good boozing and cut.
I could use some change.
They may be mentally unstable and deserving of our charity, but that doesn't mean they can't be selected as the Warren and Bradley Show Street Freak of the Week.
Yes, it is the Street Freak of the Week on the Warren and Bradley Show. This week's episode brought to you by Dr. Pepper.
Oh, jeez. We're not going to do that again, are we?
We should do more fake commercials for Dr. Pepper. I just really like Dr. Pepper. Anyway, we have 2 different street freaks for Warren to choose from this week. You will make the final decision as to who gets the crown. The first one comes courtesy of a homeless person who was camped out on my front stoop.
Oh, yeah.
And as you all know, I live in Bumtown, as Warren calls it. The Mission, Lighthouse Mission, a homeless shelter, is about a block away. And then there's also the
homeless care complex is sort of built around it. Kind of like a university that eventually expands into a bunch of different colleges and
like
a graduate school. So now there's a bunch of a campus for the homeless.
There's a place right across the street from my apartment where they hand out free meals.
Yes.
All good programs, good things. These people need help.
Right down by the railroad tracks. Yep.
But because of that, it also means that there are often homeless people. They like stoops. They like little alcoves.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I think maybe it dates back to our primitive roots living in caves.
Yeah. It's like a very shallow cave.
Feel sheltered.
Yeah.
And so often we have a nice little porch on my building, and they kind of like to cozy up in there, maybe with a sleeping bag or something. And there was a guy there the other day. I was trying to... Usually I enter in through the back door because that's where I park my truck, but for some reason I was going in through the front. Mm-hmm. There's an old homeless dude. He was wrapped in a little shawl, just spread out completely across the stoop. There was no way I could walk around him to get into my door.
Yeah.
And I approached him, and he didn't look up at me.
No.
He didn't even make any sort of indication that he knew I was there. And I went... He did nothing.
Yeah.
I said, "Excuse me, I need to get inside." Still did nothing. Mm-hmm. But then began to do this.
Oh, no.
And I'm going to do my best to recreate this. I don't know if I'm even going to come close. But he started making this strange utterance halfway between humming a tune with some strange percussive bush people of the Kalahari clicking weird thing going on. Mm-hmm. And let's see if I can do it. It was like...
That's music, man. That's good.
He went on for quite a while.
And you stood there and just watched this.
As I stood there and kept every once in a while trying to interject, like, and he just kept going.
Yeah.
Finally, he came to some sort of crescendo of this little performance.
Yeah.
And when he was done, he looked at me like, eh?
Yeah.
Like, look what I just did for you there. That was pretty good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I, sort of nonplussed, looked back at him. He's like, that would earn me a cigarette, wouldn't it?
Oh, Jesus. I like the fact that we've seen people like performing music on the streets of Bellingham, so he assumed he'd perform his own.
Yes.
Which you think this isn't a very good performance, but if you've seen some of the people we've seen performing on the street who
Yes.
just basically have a broken guitar and are slamming their hands against it and screaming.
Always singing Punk Rock Girl for some reason, or the other popular variation, Punk Rock Boy.
Yeah, but they don't actually, I mean, they really don't
Punk
know.
Rock Girl!
Yeah, don't
Just
know how to play
banging on a guitar.
banging on it and expecting, and they got the little case out there, they
Yeah.
got something out, they're expecting money for this. So I think that might have been better.
It was unique. Anyway.
Yeah, it was sort of a, techno beat.
interesting.
Yeah, it's sort of a club.
It was sort of like those. Are they the Eskimos that, or no? It's the Tibetan monks that chant with the weird, like they do several tones at once in their throat. So this guy was making percussive tones and also humming at the same time. So it was kind of.
He's an outsider artist. He's a genius.
It was impressive.
Possibly.
So I gave him a cigarette.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And he still made no movement to move out of the way of the door. And so finally, I punched in my code on the door. Opened it and basically pushed the door into him and sort of slid him out of the way.
Yeah.
And he didn't seem to care, and I walked inside.
That's nice.
Yeah. The second one came today, actually, as I was standing on my corner waiting for homeless people to approach me.
Yeah.
And one of them finally did.
Uh-huh.
And there was a younger black homeless woman, and the only reason I mention her race is because of the subject of our conversation.
Oh, good.
She had a little dog that was doing the thing I love when dogs have their leash in their mouth and they just carry it around. I love that. But anyway, her dog was doing that. She walks up, and I had a bag of coffee beans on the ground that I had just purchased.
Of course.
I like to I have to grind my own beans.
Yeah, you make
French press.
French press.
Good coffee,
Yeah, sure.
She sees the bag of coffee beans.
Yeah.
She comes up and picks them up.
Uh-oh.
And looks at them. I'm standing a foot away. They're obviously there at my feet.
Yeah.
She picked them up and started walking away with them. And
Is this why you mentioned that she was black?
No.
Okay. Good. Because that would be a bad reason.
Yes. I said, excuse me, those are mine. And she turned around and went, what, these here? I was like, yes, those are my coffee beans. Can I have those back, please? She went, okay. And she came and gave them back to me.
Yeah.
I went, all right, thank you. And then she went, I love white people. I love them. I love white people. Like, what's going on here? Man, they so nice. Where I come from, you go up and try to steal man's beans, and you get your ass kicked. You get the shit. And she just started going off about how apparently black people would beat the shit out of her where she was from. She said she was from Abilene, Texas, apparently.
Oh, yeah, that's a rough place.
And when she was homeless in Abilene, she would go up. I didn't know there were a lot of big
people
black
stealing
population in Abilene.
Beans, though. But that's a very specific thing.
I don't know if it was just beans or
There's
just
a lot of
stealing
black
anything
people
in
with
general.
beans.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But then she started going into her impression of me.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, okay, because I love white people. They're so nice. You go up and you take their shit. And then she said, excuse me, those are my coffee beans. Can I have those back? And then they're just like that. And I'm
Spot
like,
on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sounded exactly like me. And basically there was like a 10-minute tirade of her half doing a white person voice, half doing her like shrieking about how nice white people were because they don't beat the shit out of her when she tries to steal from
This is
them.
a comedy act is what this is.
It was pretty good, actually.
The funny thing about white people is that they ask for their beans back politely. She should perform at our local comedy club.
Yeah, was it those old like 80s at the Improv behind the
brick wall behind you?
Yeah, there was the brick wall behind. Yeah, when black people drive, they're all like, yeah. They drive like, and white people are like,
You steal a black man's beans, he'll kill you.
Yeah, so it was impressive.
Yeah.
And not a bad I mean, she did try to steal my coffee beans, but...
You know what? I'm going to crown her the Street Freak of the Week because of the impression of you. I like that.
You like that? She was spot on?
Yeah, I think that's great.
All right, so congratulations, Miss Coffee Bean Stealing White Person Loving Homeless Person. You've been selected as the Ward of Bradley Show's Street Freak of the Week.
Congratulations.
Our hats are off to you, Mr. Homeless Man, because you've been selected as the Ward of Bradley Show Street Freak of the Week.
And we're back. I just want to mention quickly, we had our That's How Women Are last week.
And you can get the podcast at the Zune store.
Yes, thank you, Warren.
Okay.
And of course, I had a couple people telling me, like, I never see women writing checks. I see men writing checks just as much. And then other people were agreeing with me that it was always women writing checks. And of course, today, when I went into a coffee shop, there was a 40-year-old man writing a check in front of me. So it just completely slapped me in the face with my That's How Women Are. But I'm going to keep a running tally now. I'm going to try to pay attention.
Like a sociologist.
Exactly.
You are, yeah. You're a scientist.
An anthropologist.
Yeah.
So I'll try to keep a running tally, and then later on I'll update you as to whether or not I was just...
Stay tuned for that,
it was complete bullshit
That's
or not.
why you should subscribe to the podcast.
There's this new show that apparently is premiered on ABC or something. I guess I probably should have looked it up.
If only there was some way.
Yeah, they don't need the ratings.
Yeah.
But I guess the premise of the show is that all electricity goes away.
Yeah.
I don't know how this happens.
Well, maybe the people don't know either because they're just all of a sudden their power's out.
Well, you would think there would have to be something very catastrophic to do that, and that the electricity would be the least of your worries. If there was something that could cause the entire power grid to just disappear in the entire world. But anyway, that's the premise of the show, and I guess it starts with people waking up and like, oh, my coffee machine doesn't work.
Yeah.
Oh, I overslept. My alarm clock didn't go off. And then it goes to like 20 years later, and by this point, people have devolved into these warring tribes and are running around, and there's a few people who are able to generate electricity, and they're lording it over people, and everyone's fighting and freaking out. And I was just thinking, even the reviewer of the episode, I don't know why I was reading a review of this episode. I don't have television.
Yeah, why
so
are
I'm
you
never gonna watch
reading reviews of network television shows?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, the reviewer was saying, I was kind of suspending disbelief for a minute, and then I realized we have thousands of years of human society where there was no electricity, and we managed to have government and sophisticated commerce and things like that. So why is it that suddenly everything would break down?
Yeah.
And I was sort of agreeing with that, but then at the same time, I felt like, if we were to wake up tomorrow and suddenly there was no electricity, it seems like any excuse to riot and loot and freak out, people will engage in.
Yeah.
So what do you think would happen? Do
you think we would maintain order?
I don't know. How would we, for one thing? Because, tomorrow morning, I always wake up before my alarm clock anyway, so it's not like I'm in oversleep. I'm going to wake up, I'm going to realize, the power's out.
Yeah.
Like, that's annoying. So I'll get on my phone. I guess
the phones won't work either.
There won't be any
because there won't be any
I'll try to get on my phone
to
see if I can look online to see what's going on with the power grid. I'll be like, okay, no internet.
Yeah.
What's going on with this? What else wouldn't work? Nothing.
Nothing would work.
Nothing would work.
Yeah.
And so I would still probably show up to work. My car would work.
Yeah.
I'd turn the key. I'd start driving.
Yeah.
Be like, all the lights are out. None of the traffic lights are working. Wow, this is really widespread. No radio in my car. What's going on there?
Yeah.
And then it would take me a while to finally realize that there was no power anywhere. How would we even figure this out? Because there's no news sources. There's no network news anymore. There's no internet anymore. There's no radio anymore.
It makes you wonder if the civil authorities have some sort of system to communicate it in case this happens.
Well, I would assume that there has to be some emergency broadcast channels or something where they have generators where they could start broadcasting and batteries.
Yeah.
So eventually, I think the information would be disseminated. But, what do you think would happen to society? What do you think people would do? What would you do, personally?
We mentioned that reviewer saying that we had gone a long time without electricity and we'd probably be fine. And I thought, well, maybe, the government would establish order and things would just move along and we'd, work things out. But the more I think about it, I do think that if this did happen, people would be looting grocery stores and people would be just taking everything they can get and trying to
maybe not so
themselves.
Much around here, but definitely in any major cities, inner cities.
Major cities definitely, but I think even here. Because the fact that people start to hear that, there's no communication anywhere, there's no electricity, and that's going to stop the supply of food.
Oh, yeah, there'd definitely be runs on grocery stores. People
and then once you have that going on, that stops the complete order of everything.
I think what would happen is people would freak out at first and go insane, looting, getting, you always see the people getting their big screen TVs and you can plug that in,
those
you
people,
idiot. And finally, after a while, though, at least I think around this community, people would realize, okay, we're just tearing ourselves apart here. And there would be some sort of attempt to consolidate.
There might be an attempt to do so, but the problem is that because the food supply and all the agribusiness in this country is built around electricity,
yes,
and we have a population of 330 million people, there isn't going to be enough food at some point.
Right.
And then you have to start fighting for the food.
Yes.
Or people start starving.
So you think that eventually there's going to be warring tribes of people who have banded together. In the show, they all started making swords and hacking at each other with swords, which I liked because that's the first thing you do when the electricity goes out is you create a blacksmith and start forging swords.
This is your dream come true. Yeah, I don't know how long it would take.
Guns still work without electricity.
Oh, yeah, guns would be fine.
I don't know
but
why
eventually you'd run out of ammo.
Yeah, you can make more ammo. They had ammo before electricity. You can have ammo after electricity.
Yeah, they did lots of things before electricity. They also supplied everyone with food before electricity, but they also had the skills to do that and a smaller population. And there were people that knew how to build ammo. There were people that knew how to do all sorts of things. Those skills no longer exist.
There's still old men who pack their own ammo. They shoot the shells and then they pick up their cases.
Those people could do that for a little while, I'm sure. But yeah, I don't think it'd go very well. Eventually, a certain amount of people would survive, but it all depends too. Like, the electricity's just gone, and there's no way it's coming back.
Right.
Yeah, things are.
I don't know how this happens. I mean, because if we know how to generate electricity, so somehow I didn't look into the show enough to find out what actually causes all the electricity to go away. But I don't know. We'll just have to go. We'll have to suspend our disbelief.
Well, I know that in northern India right now they're having huge problems with like brownouts and blackouts,
right?
And there's enough
power
electricity.
Grid is so old, and
and that's 10% of the population is there, and people are starting to like buy generators, and the generator business is very good. People just burn diesel to have electricity because the government can't supply it anymore. But if it happened just instantaneously like that,
what's your first move? Do you think you would just kind of hang out and wait for things to shake out, or would you try to be proactive? Like,
you definitely wait for things to shake out,
but
because you never know. You think things might work out and people might be calm, and there might be an orderly way that we handle this. Mm-hmm. But once you start seeing like society break down, right?
Yeah,
you start seeing that around you, and like the rules don't apply anymore. Then you have to like fend for yourself.
So survival of the fittest. Right,
I would like. It's not like I'm going to get up in the morning and try to make some coffee and see the coffee grinder doesn't work, and then and then go out and start like killing people for their food. I would give it a little time and try to like maintain order, and I would be a preacher of peace throughout the community. But if it gets violent, it gets violent, and then you just have to fend for yourself. You're in a state of nature at that point. Yeah.
I don't think it would necessarily be a horrible thing.
Yes, it'd be a very horrible thing.
Well, for a while. Well,
you might die,
and we'd probably lose about half the population of the Earth, probably more.
It would be it'd be horrible for you if you like starved to death or were killed by a leader.
But of course, in all of these hypothetical situations, I never assume that I'm one of the people who is slaughtered or suffering horribly.
Of course not. No. You assume you're the triumphant leader of a giant gang
with human finger bones around my neck, and
But I don't know if we have the skills to be leaders of these gangs.
No, we're fine. I've read the U.S. Army Survival Handbook.
Yeah,
I know how to make leather.
It's fine if you're trapped in the woods, but that doesn't mean you can lead a bunch of like civilians.
Hey, every time I hear the news, I always have really, really good opinions on things that people say. And when I hear some leader say something, I'm like, I wouldn't have done that. I would have done it completely differently.
Oh, that's a fair sign. And you have your spidey sense. We can't forget.
I do. I can smell things. If someone's sense rape.
About to trying to rape you, or if one of your enemies is going to vomit on you, you can turn the enemy away.
I'll hold his hair for him.
You have quite the skill set, yeah. No, I think about it, it'd be a horrible situation.
That would be horrible. But again, all of these apocalyptic situations, which we seem to be obsessed with, there always is some primal draw to me where I feel like...
Oh, yeah, it'd be interesting, at least for a little while.
There'd be a lot of chance for me to run people through with swords and jump around. I don't know. I think about... I couldn't play Minecraft anymore.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of a bummer. Music... I'd have to just start playing guitar by myself all the time to get the music I want to hear.
Yeah, you're really seeing this as a very quaint scenario. We're just hanging out in your house and you can't watch TV. I mean, it's much worse when you don't have any food. And then things are happening in the street. And you don't know who's going to try to break through your door at any moment. Yeah.
Well, there's already homeless people trying to break through my door. I could only imagine what would happen if there was no electricity.
Homeless people aren't going to do that well. The people that can't get by in a society right now...
Yeah.
Are going to have
maybe they'll come into their own because they're already used to scrabbling around and scrounging. Actually, no, they're not. They get everything handed to them.
Yeah,
it's not like they're.
Well, they also survive in a society like the mentally ill and the homeless in our society. They can survive just walking around the streets, even if they don't go to the place where people are giving them food, just because there's so much food waste around.
Right,
you can find a way to survive.
Right,
the food waste is gone.
And things, yeah.
We're going to be eating the food waste, right?
Right.
So it's it's a survival of the fittest situation.
Yeah, eating rats, eating probably a lot of family pets. Devoured.
Oh, yeah. But pretty soon everything's gone.
Yeah.
Then we got a problem. Then we started eating people, apparently.
I've never grown a crop before. That might be difficult.
But that's even longer term, right?
Well, and that's assuming that you can find some land and clear it out, and that people aren't going to be raiding your crops.
You're thinking about you and your guitar, like right off the bat, like, oh, I can't listen to my MP3 player, and you're thinking like 20 years in the future when like the population's been cold, and you're like, you're living in like a field, and you're like, oh, I have to survive here.
Yeah,
you're in an urban area right now. You have to survive what happens in this urban area, the fight that goes on here. Then eventually, maybe you escape to a field where hopefully you won't be raided by bandits at some point, and you can grow like your turnips. But that's a long ways off.
Sweet potatoes.
Yeah, sweet potatoes. Oh, I love sweet potatoes.
I don't really.
I
guess I'd have to develop a taste for them.
You would, yeah. You'd refuse my sweet potatoes and starve to death because you're so picky.
Well, once again, let's hope to God it never happens.
Oh, let's hope to God.
I think that's all the time we have for this episode of the Warren and Bradley Show. This has been Bradley Victor.
This has been Warren Van.
Saying,
keep your turnips in the ground and keep your sweet potatoes in your mouth.
Yes. Good day to you all.
This has been the Warren and Bradley Show, brought to you by Warren Van and Bradley Victor. For podcast news and information, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/Warren and Bradley. Follow the show on Twitter at Warren and Brad. Subscribe on iTunes and leave a review. For episode archives and episode pictures, go to warrenandbradley.com, and to contact the show, write to podcast@warrenandbradley.com.